darling. Why are you so sweet? Welcome back to Garden Obsessed. I'm Carla. This is Lola. And today I wanted to talk about some of the things that I am going to be growing this year in the 2022 garden that are not peppers and tomatoes, which we've already talked about, and I'll link to those videos in the description. I will separate this into two separate videos, but this is what I currently have narrowed down, believe it or not, from my giant tubs of seeds for flowers. I don't have room possibly for all of these, so I'm gonna try to cut that back some more. But maybe what we'll talk about first is the vegetables. So strap in and let's go through this mountain of seeds. Okay, so I thought we'd talk first about some of the things that I'll be starting soon. These will be the first few things that I'll be starting for the veggie garden this year. I've already started a few flowers, but really most of these things I won't be starting for quite a while yet. Maybe some in mid-February, but the majority will be started in March and April. Our last frost date is typically the last week of May, and so if I try to start anything before that, inevitably I run out of room before I'm able to at least bring it outside for the day. I only have one rack with grow lights, and I cannot support all of this with that. So that is the plan, and forgive me if you can hear the heat going in the background. We are expecting a nor'easter here tonight. Lola, and forgive the bored dog as well. But a nor'easter, for anyone that's not from the East Coast, is basically a snowstorm, and I've heard the term weather bomb being tossed around for this one as well, which typically means we have two low pressure systems kind of colliding, and it might be a messy weekend. So we're trying to crank the heat to stay warm in case we lose power. So hopefully you can't hear that in the background. I digress. Anyhow, okay, so the first couple things that I'm going to be starting are going to be onions on my never-ending quest to grow onions. The only one I'm going to be growing this year is the Rosa di Milano, and I actually have two packets. This was one that I purchased last year. It is pelleted. This is the fresh pack that I purchased this year. It is not pelleted. I'm going to start some of both. One, I'm partly just curious to see how the pelleted onion seed lasts from year to year. And hopefully this year we get some successful, decent sized onions, fingers crossed. The other thing I'm going to be growing is tall Utah celery. I've grown this one and the Chinese pink in the past. I've had the most success with this one. I don't grow it every year, but I want to grow a lot of it this year. And by a lot, I don't mean tons and tons of it. Like, I'll maybe start half a dozen plants. I want to have it to freeze in order to include it throughout the winter in soups and stocks and things like that. So those I will be starting in the next couple weeks. They're typically both slow growing and need a long start before the season. Hello, you troublemaker. So the next group, I guess, that I'll talk about is kind of my leafy greens. So this will be my lettuce and my spinach, and I guess I've got bok choy in here as well. So I've got some Salanova green sweet crisp lettuce here. I think this is 3-year-old seed now. I've grown it for 2 seasons previous. This is just a really nice, it's a leaf type lettuce. and it has a different shape. It's kind of frilly and it's nice in a salad mix, so I'm gonna be growing that one. This is one that I bought last year that I didn't actually get around to growing. This is Winter Density, and it's supposed to be a really good one. It's cold tolerant, so you can start it a little earlier than some of your other varieties and maybe grow it a little longer into the fall than some of the other varieties. So this will be one that I'll be starting as one of my early leafy greens. Another lettuce that I'm growing is a blend. It's the Rocky Top salad blend from Baker Creek. There's red, there's speckled, there's green. I don't know exactly what varieties are listed in here, but I grew this last year for the first time and really enjoyed it. So I've pared down. Traditionally, I grow a lot more types of lettuce. Excuse me. Lola. Traditionally, I've grown a lot more types of lettuce, but I'm trying to simplify, and believe it or not, I'm trying to simplify and focus on staple crops this year. So I think 3, packets, there's more than one type obviously in the blend, but this should satisfy my need for variety, and that's all the lettuce that I'm growing this year, or at least that's the plan. That being said, I'm also only growing one kind of spinach this year. This is King of Denmark. I don't think I've grown this one before. The Bloomsdale type I've tried before. It wasn't my favorite, so I'm trying this one this year. And next is Choy. So I've got a baby Bok Choy. This is Toy Choy. So I grew this one last year. Very similar to a standard size Choy, only miniaturized. So these are quite cute. This is called Ruby. It is a hybrid. I also grew this one last year. This one seemed to get devastated. I don't think we actually got a full-size one. The slugs were insane last year and demolished a lot of the Choy, but in particular this one. So I'm gonna take some better precautions this year with slugs, and hopefully we'll get to actually eat this one this year. And I'm also growing a pak choy called Cantong White, which is just kind of your standard bok choy. So moving on from leafy greens into brassicas, I have my kale. So one of my all-time favorites, what has become one of my all-time favorites, is Premier Kale. And I got this seed packet probably 3 or 4 years ago from Seeds Now, and have since saved, I have a whole baggie full of seeds from my plants that had gone to seed. So I will never run out of Premier Kale seeds, which is a good thing because it is one of my favorite. It's a large leaf and it's a flat leaf, so I find it really good for multiple purposes. I really like that. Another one is just Vate's Blue Scotch curled. So this is a really popular one that a lot of people grow and is kind of like your standard kale that you're more likely to find in a grocery store. This or lacinato, which is also one that I'm growing this year. This particular one is Nero di Toscana, but it's your typical lacinato or dinosaur kale. This is the one we prefer for like kale chips and things. So I'll probably only grow 1 or 2 of each of these because I'm trying 4 kinds, and 8 kale plants is quite a bit of kale for 2 people. And the last one, I think I bought this seed last year, but I didn't end up actually growing it. It is called Garlic Kale, and it is kale flavor with a hint of garlic. So that sounds wonderful. And the shape is more similar to like the Premier Kale, than it's not as curly, obviously, as the curly Scotch kale, and it's a little smoother leaf than the dinosaur kale. Now, the rest of the brassicas. So, First up is cabbage. I have Red Express cabbage that I got from a seed swap. I don't think I've tried this one before. I have grown red cabbage in the past, but I don't think this particular one. And early golden acre cabbage. I did grow these last year. These were also from a swap. And, you know, there's probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 seeds in here. That's enough for us for many years. I'll typically only grow at most half a dozen cabbages. So those will last quite a long time. Brussels sprouts is one of our favorite things to eat in the fall and winter. However, I do not have great luck growing them. They're typically pest ridden, and I haven't ever gotten the timing right to have large Brussels sprouts develop. I'm going to give it another shot this year, I think. These may get cut if I run out of room, but I may as well start a few and see if I can nail the timing this year. So if anyone has any tips, this is Long Island Improved. That's the variety of these, which I think is like a standardly grown variety. I should have good luck with these, but I just don't. So if you have any tips, please let me know for getting a good crop of Brussels sprouts, because I would love, that's one thing I would love to nail. Brassicas in general, I sometimes have a hard time with. I may give Chinese broccoli a go this year. This one is called Cali Lan. And similar to that is broccoli Rob or rapini. These are good kinds for stir fries. You use the stems and the leaves and the florets, so it doesn't seem as wasteful as like a head of broccoli where you're, you know, cutting off half the plant. Not that you can't, you can eat the stem and the leaves of that as well, just typically we don't. And I'm gonna try to grow a green sprouting broccoli this year as well. I have tried this in the past and I don't know if I killed the plants. I'm not sure why these didn't actually make it to harvest, so I don't remember why now, but I'm gonna try those again. For heading broccoli, I've got broccoli Munchkin. I grew these 2 years ago, I think, and probably a few last year. 2 years ago, I had awesome broccoli. It was the best year for broccoli that I ever had. And last year had little teeny tiny puny heads again and very buggy. So this year we're gonna try to up our game again and have a year like 2 years ago. These ones I have never grown. They are, I think I bought the seed 2 years ago, but they should be fine. It's Umpqua Broccoli. So it says these are big heads that emerge mid-summer, extra large compared to other open pollinated varieties. So, and this is that company again that's, you know, in my province. So I know these will grow well here. So we're gonna give that one a shot. Next is cauliflower. So I have two kinds here that I'm going to grow. I have Snowball X, which I think is a fairly common standard cauliflower, and I also have a hybrid. I actually received this in a swap, so this seed is, it was germ tested in 2020, so it's a couple years old, but it should still be fine. This is Song. It's a hybrid cauliflower, and I've heard good things about this one too, so I'm excited to try that. Next up is Kohlrabi, and this is probably the brassica that I have the best luck with. And if you've never had kohlrabi, it's not something, like when we go to our farmer's market, it's definitely something that I can get there, but I've never seen it in our regular grocery store. So some people may not be familiar. This one has a good picture, so I'll start with this one. This is early white Vienna. So essentially the stem bulbs, and you eat that part of the plant. So rather than the flower head like a broccoli, this is the stem has been selected for. So you can use it. It's really good in like a coleslaw or chopped up in a salad. It's in a lot of salad mixes actually if you buy those pre-baked salads from the grocery store. Often, like the broccoli one will also contain kohlrabi. So it's pretty useful and it's tasty. It's good in a stir fry, good in a salad, good in coleslaw. So this is one that I'll probably double down on to make up for my lack of brassica ability, growing ability in the other areas. This is one called Delicatesse Blue. It's very similar to that white Vienna. And this is a hybrid. It's also green, I believe, called Tarek. And this is a couple years old seed now too, but it grew just fine for me last year. Okay, next up we have root vegetables. So I'm gonna grow a few different carrots this year. The first one is Dolianka, and I got this in a seed swap. It's supposed to be a really good storage carrot, so I'm excited for that one. I also got Chantenay half longs. So I just got this seed this year. I think they'll be good because they're a half long carrot, and our beds are 8 inches deep, so I think they're deep enough for most carrots, but just to hedge our bets, I wanted like a short fat carrot, and this is just the one that I saw and the one that I chose. And the other carrot that we're going to grow is Kyoto Red. I bought this seed 2 years ago, meaning to plant it later in the season for a good fall and winter carrot, and kept forgetting about it. So I'm just going to plant it with all the rest of the carrots because, you know, they take all season anyway, so I don't know what I was thinking about succession planting carrots anyway. So we're gonna actually get to try these this year, hopefully. Couple of other roots. I picked up a Rutabaga. I don't know anything about this variety. This is Gaze's special purple top. It looks like your standard purple top to me, but we'll find out, we'll see. And I also got some parsnips. I've never actually grown parsnips. I think I grew them one time and I don't think it was very successful. So we're gonna give these another try and leave these as long as we can and mulch them really good in the fall and be digging them up hopefully this time of year next year. So we're gonna give those a try as well. I just realized my beans are somewhere else and I didn't actually bring them, but I have decided to cut back on the number of beans that I typically grow. I'm going to grow one of the Chinese yard long type of a bean on a trellis. I haven't decided if it's going to be the green or the purple yet. I am also going to grow a pole dry bean. I also haven't decided which kind yet. I have quite a few to choose from. Although I have had good luck growing borlotti beans in the past, so it might be that one. And I'm also going to grow no more than 2 kinds of bush beans. So one of those is going to for sure be like just a string green bean. And the other kind, it's probably going to be, I think it's called Tender Green Improved. I'll throw the name up there if it's actually something different. And the other kind might be a different kind of dry bean. There's one that the name escapes me of right now that I'm very fond of. It's interesting colors, and I think I'm low on seeds, so I may even just throw a few plants in purely to save seed from, so I'm not short in another year when I have more room for green beans. We're not huge green bean eaters, but I would like to have enough in the freezer for stir fries. I'd like to make some of our own stir fry packs and things. And a few green beans thrown into those is always nice. So on to peas. I'm also simplifying my peas this year. We're not doing shelling peas this year, which is devastating to me because that's one of my fondest childhood memories, is yanking carrots and wiping off the dirt out of the garden and eating them, and shelling peas. So, but shelling peas tend to be a garden snack and not something that we are putting up a substantial amount of. To shell all those peas, you would have to grow so many. And they're typically available fairly cheaply, already shelled, fresh, at our local market. So I think we're shifting to the snow peas and the snap peas. So the snap peas that we're gonna grow are called Sugar Daddy. These are also peas that you can eat the pod and the pea inside, and these we will be freezing the majority of. We'll obviously eat fresh all of these things as well. But I want to grow enough of these to include in our stir fry mixes. And that brings me to our snow peas, which are like the flat, wider pods that you eat the whole thing as well. And this one is called Tai Chung. So those are the only peas we're growing this year. Now we're on to cucurbits. This is one of my favorite categories. I think I just dropped a baggie. We'll find it or we won't. So the first thing is Cucumelons, and I'm undecided if I'm growing these or not. I didn't grow them this past year, which was my first year not growing them in quite some time. My stepdaughter really likes to eat them, or says she really likes to eat them. And I think the year before last, I grew a whole trellis full of them, and I think she ate like 10 all summer. So these are her favorite. They're not necessarily everyone else's favorite. I think they're kind of a novelty and something everyone should grow once. I tried making pickles out of them. They don't really hold up to a standard pickling process. If you made refrigerator pickles, I'm sure they might be okay. And I'd rather eat, like, I don't think they're sour. They're a little more sour than a cucumber. I'd rather eat a cucumber. So I haven't 100% decided if we're growing these or not, but they're on the contender list. The next up is baby Persian cucumber. And I don't know anything about these, but I've had these seeds for a couple years and I've never tried them, so I'm gonna give those a try. Armenian cucumbers I also received in a swap, and these I believe are actually like a melon, but they look and taste a lot like a cucumber, so we're going to give these a try. For our standard cucumber, I'm growing Marketmore 76. They're just your standard kind of long field cucumber. That's it for the cucumbers. The only melon I am growing this year is Kacheri Melon. I've yet to successfully grow these. Last year was close. I don't think they have time to ripen in our climate. I will try to start a couple early, which I do every year, but I'll try to start a couple even earlier and maybe pot them up a few times if I have to. It's an ongoing mission to try to grow these things. So wish me luck on that this year as well. So now on to squashes, summer, winter, and also pumpkins. So first we'll do the summer squash. So patty pans are my favorite squash. I like them better than zucchini. I don't know if it's the shape. I just love them. So this one is a hybrid. It's called Starship, and it's just a green patty pan squash. I have another patty pan that is called Starburst, and it is a yellow patty pan, and it has that green button on the blossom end. You can actually see them. They're these little ones here. So I've grown both of these in the past. The zucchini that I have decided, this was the packet that went flying. There's two kinds of zucchini. One is gray zucchini, which I only have a few seeds left, so, and they're quite old now, so hopefully these will germinate. I have grown these several years previous, like in a succession of several years, and they have become one of my favorites. I tend to not like the yellow zucchini as much as the green zucchini. I find the yellow is a little softer and a little more watery, and I actually prefer these gray zucchini over the dark green zucchini. These are kind of just like a light green color in comparison. And the other zucchini that I'm going to grow is Romanesco, which I would say is more similar to the gray zucchini than any of the other kinds. So I have not grown this one before, but have heard it is a good one to grow. So those are the zucchinis. Now on to, let's see. Okay, so honey nut butternut squash. I grew this 1 year previously. It is like a mini butternut type of a squash. So most times we have my stepkids, you know, every other weekend and holidays and things like that. But typically it's Jarrett and I, and to eat an entire butternut squash is sometimes difficult. So I thought this would be a good one to give another go this year. It's more of a personal sized or two-person squash. Another one we really like because it stores really well is a spaghetti squash. This one happens to be called spaghetti pasta. I'm not sure if this is a hybrid. Oh no, heirloom. So this is open pollinated. I tend not, I have saved a lot of seeds in the past, but I tend not to save the seeds from cucurbits because they are prone to cross-pollination more than a lot of the other things that I grow. So I typically don't save these seeds. And a lot of times, especially something like a summer squash, in order to save the seed, like to save the seeds of a pepper, it's when it's ripe and you're eating it, so you can still get to eat the fruit. But something like a summer squash, that has to go so far past when you would want to eat it in order to ripen the seeds that it's not something I usually do. So I just wanted to give fair warning that, like, you know, cucurbits are not the easiest thing to save seeds from. So anyway, spaghetti squash. The next one is Canada Crookneck, which I've wanted to grow for a couple years and finally broke down and bought the seeds this year. It's a butternut type, but it has a really long neck part, which is the seedless part. So that seems like win-win to me. So this is our first year trying this one. The next one is a sweet mama squash. This is like I think it's a kabocha type squash. It's orange, and I have bought it at markets to eat before and have tried to grow these seeds last year, but had complete and total failure in the strawbill garden. So we'll give these another try this year. And the last one is a Buttercup, which is, you know, a standard squash that you can buy in the grocery store. It's standard for a reason. It's a really good one. It stores quite well, and is one that we typically grow. So that's on the list as well. Pumpkins are, I've got quite a few here, and I definitely don't have room for them all. So these are the ones that are on the list so far, and I'm sure this list will be cut because I just don't have room. But black Futsu squash is one that I've wanted to grow for quite some time. It's one of those interesting ones. It kind of has like a haze on it. It's a dark greenish blue type pumpkin. And I believe it's a good eating one as well. So it would be a nice dual purpose because of course most of these pumpkins, we don't eat a lot of pumpkin. We typically eat a lot of squash, but most of these I want just for decoration. So if it has a dual purpose, it's probably higher on the contender list. So that's the first one. The next one is Long Island cheese squash, which is another dual purpose pumpkin. It's one of the flatter types, so I want to try to grow a couple of the flat types to try stacking them in displays and stuff. And it's also a slightly different color. It's not like, you know, your bright orange pumpkin. It's a little more muted, a little more tame. So that might get grown. Another flat one that I have here is Cinderella Pumpkin. It's similar in shape to that Long Island cheese. I think it's a little brighter colored. It's a little more standard pumpkin-y color, but also a really nice stacking flat pumpkin. Then we have Connecticut Field Pumpkin. My stepkids would be super upset with me if I grew all these fancy pumpkins and none of them we could make jack-o'-lanterns out of. So this is just like a classic field pumpkin that would make a good jack-o'-lantern. So these are probably definitely going to get grown because this is for them. So that's that one. Then we have Jardale Pumpkin. This one is a blue pumpkin with really deep ribs, really pretty. I really want to grow this one. It's probably going to be on the list. Next up, Speckled Hound. I've been after this one for a while. This is one of those modelly pumpkins. So it's kind of an orange pumpkin, but with patches of this, like this Jardale color and green, and it's kind of frosty looking. It's really cool. So Speckled Hound is one I've been after and wanting to grow. This one's probably definitely going to get planted as well. This is a maybe. This is a Lady Godiva pumpkin. I really like the coloring, the splotches on it. I think it's a fairly small pumpkin. I don't actually know. But this is one of the naked seed pumpkins. So there's no hull around the seeds. So a lot of people like it for that reason and eat the seeds. But I've got a lot of other interesting color pumpkins and I don't mind eating the hulls on pumpkin seeds, especially when they're roasted. So this one might get the axe. And we have another flat pumpkin, flat white boar pumpkin. And I don't think I had any other white pumpkins on the list. So maybe this one might get chosen over the Cinderella or the cheese pumpkin. So that's a lot. I hope you're still with me. I'd love to hear what you're growing. I'd love to have some tips on some of these things that I've had a difficult time in the past growing. I'd love to hear what's in your gardens this year or what you're planning to grow. And that's all we've got for today. Until next time. I totally just lied and forgot about the gourds. I'm also growing a birdhouse gourd. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Those have also proven difficult for me in the past. As well as loofah, same story. So, wish me luck. Thanks for watching.